Welcome to Narrate Your Story TV. This is a special edition of Narrate Your Story TV. And usually it's me and one person as a guest. But guess what? Today I have other guests that are going to join me. And what do we really do at this show? This show, we bring world leaders, individuals, everyday people to share with us life lessons along their journey so that we can learn and not have to go through what they went through. And when I'm not doing this show, guess what else I do? I help female entrepreneurs in the early stage of their business create memorable and captivating stories that align with their offers so that they can convert sales. I help individuals turn their stories into a signature talk. Please join me today because we have an awesome show coming to you. Sometimes in this show, we get involved in discussing and conversations that has to do with race. And today is no exception. So please join us. And as you join us, just have an open mind. Just have an open mind. Before we begin, I ask that you go ahead as you are watching us, share the link and bless everyone with this conversation because I think it's a conversation that needs to be heard. Again, yes. Have an open mind. And please help me welcome first my co-host today. His Royal Highness Sir Clyde Rivers, King of Kujiman, Kobina, Amisa I. And, he has recently been appointed the Humanitarian Ambassador at Large for the World Organization of Natural Medicine. I call him the father of civility. He's the founder of I Change Nations. Yeah. And also joining us our other guest panelists, Dr. Stacy, Professor Jared, and of course, we have somebody that is also waiting to come in, and that will be Dr. Penny Heflibauer. So, His Royal Highness, my co-host, thank you so much for gracing me today and joining us. I know you're very, very, very busy. You had the time. Everyone had the time to join me, so I appreciate it. So can I have you introduce our first panelist? And yes. That will be Dr. Jared.
Dr. Stayson's on the screen.
Dr. Stacy.
Yeah. Dr. Stayson Makaiwi is probably one of the young people in the world that I would say has it figured out. He's very, very sharp. If you ever have the chance to be in his presence, he gives you wisdom from a whole nother generation. And I believe he'll be one of the greatest voices this world has ever heard. This man is someone that I trust in. I believe in him. I've spent hours at the time with him, and he's just a new level standard for this world. Dr. Stayson Makaiwi, welcome to this amazing show. And Dr. Christie, I cannot tell people how amazing you are.
Oh,
wow. If you ever have a chance to be with Dr. Christie Iwachuku, drive, spend your money. She's worth it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we're gonna have to okay, so we'll throw the first question at you. His Royal Highness, do you want to go with your question, or would you like me to?
Yes. Why don't you go with your question first, and then we can talk about the question.
Now, today we're discussing the issue: difference can still work. We're talking about the race dialogue because oftentimes in this world that we live in, we have different races, and oftentimes if we're not careful, that's really where the problem comes from. But wouldn't that be nice if we can all get along?
Yes.
Because we belong here together. And so how do we do that? By having conversations such as the one that we are having today. So, Dr. Stacy, why is race dialogue, why do you feel that race dialogue is important?
So, as a native Hawaiian, I'm dedicated to having Hawaiians tell Hawaiian stories. And I think that's what race dialogue does. It allows our people to tell our own stories, our own ways, the way we want to share them. So, that in itself just allows us to share our culture, our history, and let us show you how to have no gaps.
Hmm.
Ah, I
That's
love that. I love that because
wow.
when you share your own story, you say it like it is, not somebody else telling your story. So I love that
Yes.
response. Doc-
Exactly. And you know what? And I think people act like race doesn't matter. Race matters in everything we do in this world. And Dr. Station, I love what you said because many times the issue I see in the world is other people trying to narrate other culture story. You can't do it.
Mhm.
You can't do it. And then many times, and I'm talking about the whole world because Dr. Christie, in America, it's race. In Africa, everyone looks the exact same color, but they have tribal issues.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what it is to me, it's a spirit of division, and anything it can do to cause a divide, it will divide people that look the exact same. So really, race, tribalism matters in everything. And I think one of the challenges that I see, Dr. Christie and Dr. Station, is we haven't narrated our story. And Dr. Christie, that's why what you're doing is so powerful. And
Thank
Station,
you.
I love what you said. Let us narrate our own story.
Glory.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you wanna take for the next question, His Royal Highness?
You have the as you
Okay.
call the as you
Okay.
call the question.
Okay. I will go ahead and I want to hear what you have to say about this. When it comes to race, when it comes to culture, how should we deal with culture and race resistance?
So with that, it's a lot, in one question. But I think what we have to do, especially, is just dialogue. I think when it comes to, say, racial disputes
Mhm.
and discrepancies, that can lead to dialogue. So if we can speak about the hard things, if we can have people actually tell their truths the way, again, that they want to say it, that's the exact knowledge from that person. So by us getting their information, we can now work with them to see what the issues are and see how they want to fix it. Coming from the outside in, it gets very tricky because we don't know everything that's going on. We don't know their daily lives. So now for us to create that dialogue with them, for us to literally just simply ask them, now we can go ahead and move to the next step in regards to a solution.
That's really good,
Wow.
Dr.
Thank
Station.
you.
That's good.
And you know what you said is so true because imagine me coming from Africa to United States, living here in United States, and even though blacks have the same blacks is black, right? But there's no way I can understand fully what a black person in America, the story of a black person in America. I don't care whether I read it from the book, they can be the only person that they can tell their story. Me telling it from my own standpoint, from what I see on TV, from what I read from the book, is absolutely not the way it should be. Like you said, people should be telling and narrating their own stories. I love
And,
that.
and you know what, Dr. Christie, I think there's a twofold side of this. I think we have to understand that an African American and an African that's come from Africa to America, and I'm actually going to say this right: the Africans in we're all Africans in diaspora because
Correct.
that's where we came from. But those that have actually grown up in
Yeah.
America for their entire lives don't understand what an African youth may experience, and then when they come to America. So first of all, there's a divide there. There's a divide there as well. So what I think, what it comes down to me, is our histories, our experiences are what we have to look at. Our experiences and policy. Because watch this here. See, everything that we do is actually regulated. That's why everything that we sign, they ask, what's your nationality? You have to mark the box. Because
Oh
there's a
boy.
policy behind the box being marked. So this is why we have to learn what are the policies that marked box means. And that's why, because if you're ever gonna actually change something, you got to know what that marked box means. and if it means something, you got to fight what you have to help change the policy. Like, let me give you an example. There's this one country, they actually classify like, say, blacks, they Asians, but the Asian culture in this country doesn't consider the, like, Chinese
Mm-hmm.
or like Japanese as Asians. So it is not classified. So when it's not classified, the policy is different. So you lump everybody into one category and you give them one thing, but yet if you give all the money to one culture lumped into all the culture, there's a disparity between who gets what. So if you're going to deal with race, there has to be lines, and you have to know what the policy is that you're fighting against.
So
Yeah.
then what do you think about the boxes? Because I find that sometimes the boxes, while there may be a purpose for the boxes, it may also be discouraging for some groups as well. So you talk about the policy. What about the boxes? Because I've seen it where people don't check the boxes at all because to them it's labeling. So what do you say about that?
I have to agree. It's actually, I don't think they're in a constitution that says all people are created equal. Then why do we need a box? Just I'm
Yeah.
a citizen. I'm a human being. So just treat me as that. And I don't need you to be able to identify me before I walk in the office. Why is that important?
Why
It's
is
not.
that?
If we're all created equal, just fill it out, and when I get there, you see me.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So shall we bring in another person?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Bring in. We want to bring in Dr. Penny Heffelbauer.
Is she here?
Is she not in yet?
Uh,
Or Jared Akama. Professor Jared Akama is a great professor of our United Graduate College and Seminary. And Jared will help us understand. Jared, could you help us understand racism from a tribal view in Kenya?
Thank you, Your Royal Highness, and Dr. Christie and Dr. Stacy. In the West, you are struggling with racialism. But in Africa, we are struggling with tribalism, ethnicity, clanism, and nepotism.
mm,
And when you look at the racialism or ethnicity, you need to understand that it is not on how you look.
mm.
Because what comes first, we go back and get it from the Bible. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. We were created in the image and the likeness of God. So we are supposed to have the character of God, but we have come up with a stereotype. Why do you want to practice tribalism? Nepotism is you want to take advantage of others. You want to feel privileged, but that one should not be the case, because as we want to deal with racism and nepotism, what we need to do is to create awareness. And how do we create awareness? I have given the definition of what wanted us to be. Even in Psalms chapter 1, chapter 139, verse 14, it says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, so that I should give praise. So we are created in the image of God, but since the fall of man, that's why we want to use the color of your skin, the region you come from, your language, your culture, to just look down upon others. But that should not be the case.
Very good, Jared.
So in Africa, what I'm trying to say about, as in the West, you are struggling with racialism, but in Africa, we are struggling with nepotism, clanism, ethnicity, and if I use Kenya as a case study, our constitution requires us, because it was brief that this kind of things are there. It said that when you do things, you must have the map of my country, Kenya. My president, in this point in time, he has appointed principal secretaries, and he has not considered the map of Kenya, and the people have gone to court and have stopped the process of fetching, because there are some people who have been left out. So the point I'm trying to say that here, that ethnicity and tribalism in Africa is very bad, and it's life.
I agree. Hopefully there will be solution or conversation to that regard, where people can live as people. Unfortunately, that's what we have right now, and it doesn't favor all. And when it doesn't favor all, that's why we have the war all over the world.
It's true.
And you know, Dr. Christie, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Go ahead.
Dr. Stason, I know in the Hawaiian culture, does this narrative apply?
Absolutely. In regards to, what you guys are saying, how you guys have tribalism, just like in the Hawaiian culture, and like His Royal Highness was saying, when we're checking those boxes, we have not just Polynesians or Pacific Islanders. Within that, there are Hawaiians. We also have, the Cook Islands. We have Maori people. So we have all of these different demographics where they're all classified as one. So I think with it just being so, the lines are so gray where people just want to be their own people. And I think the system itself isn't allowing them to be their individual people, which is creating that tension. Because, if you look at AAPI, for example, it's Asian American Pacific Islander. But Asian American, say like the Chinese, I'm Chinese as well, that is completely different than Native Hawaiian. Geographically and even on the totem pole, the Asians would get more of the money, and then Pacific Islanders would be at the end. But then there's Native Hawaiians, there's Samoans, Tongans. So again, here we're at the bottom of the barrel, and we're getting, the slim pickings, and then we have to divide that between a whole group of people. So it's the, same exact thing, just different islands, different, groups of people. But yes, it does affect us as well.
You see, Dr. Christie, this is amazing because no one has talks like this. So we think it's just that place. But everywhere I've traveled around the world, I've seen people, man, this may not be popular what I'm going to say. I've seen people that look the exact same, that have division in their countries. And I'm going, what is this? This, if we all look the same, is it predicated on race?
No.
Different. It's not predicated on, if we're all the same skin color, that's called tribalism. But guess what? It's still division. If I'm black, white, and brown, guess what? It's still division. So, and see, I believe I have a solution. Okay, you say, Claire, how do you have a solution? I believe if we treat each other, and if we listen to each other's experiences, my experiences are what has changed my life. Not always the color of my skin. The color of my skin matters. Everywhere I go, it matters. People know I'm a tall Black African American, so that matters. More than that, that matters is my experiences. So if I'm looking at something, and I've had an experience, Dr. Christie, and I'm talking with actually Dr. Makaiwi, and he's had a different experience, and we start talking. Now my experience and his experience are where we are working from. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
It does make a lot of sense, and finding a common ground, which is all about civility. Finding that common ground in which all of us can live together, I think is the solution that we are seeking. And when we find that solution, again, the solution is nothing but civility, where you don't have to agree with my belief. You don't have to look like me. You don't have to agree with the things that I believe in. But it's okay to agree, to disagree, and we can still live and have a common ground.
Wow. That Dr. Christie, that's okay. If you don't mind me asking a question, just a hypothetical. Okay. Now I'm coming from an actual faith-based view, and everyone doesn't have my faith-based view in the world. So I am well aware everyone doesn't have my view. I believe that God created everybody with a gift, with actual giftings to help the world. So see, the reason why I fight for civility so much is I'm saying, what are we missing out on when we miss Dr. Jared Akama's gift? What are we missing out on with the marginalized people of the world that don't have the ability to bring their contribution? Jared Akama, speak to that issue. I think our world loses a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I like the topic of today. Why we are finding ourselves in this kind of quagmire, it is because we have not engaged. We have not had a conversation. And I'm very thankful, Christine, that you have started this conversation. And they say the stone which starts rolling will continue gathering the momentum. What am I trying to say? We are endowed with divine gifts. And I've liked the way you have put it, that let us disagree on ideas, but not as a people. And Dr. Clyde Rivers says that when our history crash, we choose to respect each other. The point I'm trying to say that, and for us to move forward, it is to keep on talking to each other, listening to each other. And what is happening, Dr. Sir Clyde Rivers, is that we have not learned to listen. We talk at each other. When somebody is talking, you also want to talk. So the engagement here is that when you have a conversation, you talk, you finish, I also respond. If we talk like now, we tell our story. I have liked the way we have put we have read the background that what's happening in the West, what's happening in Hawaii, what's happening in Africa, it's all the same.
That's true.
Humanity is all the same. So what we need to do is to allow one another to tell their story. Their story will not be the same as yours, and you don't use your story to condemn the other person. That is his own background. That is his history. And as we go forward to advance this argument, we will come up with culture. Culture is the way of life of the people. That is their life. It has got nothing to do with yours. So you cannot use who you are to judge other people. But what we need to do is to have a conversation. When you have a conversation, if your history clashes with mine, we choose to respect one another, and we will have a peaceful world.
And you know what you said, Dr. Jared, you know what you said is so true, because It goes back to listening, active listening, not just listening, active listening. Because oftentimes you find that when you're having a conversation with somebody, that person is probably getting only 20%, 30% of what you are saying. But in that person's mind, they're gearing up for their own response.
Ah,
And that's where the issue comes. They're gearing up for their own response. And because you're gearing up your own response and you're not giving 100% attention to the person that is speaking, then it takes away from you hearing that person, and all you are constantly doing, how would I rebuttal, or how would I say something sometimes against what that person said. And that interferes with the conversation. That interferes with telling the story and hearing the other person's story. Because sometimes when it comes to civility, it's not just about you always trying to be right. Sometimes you gotta let the other person be right just to make things work.
Amen.
it's really good.
Yeah.
Station, you want to interject, Dr. Makaiwi?
I was just saying that, wanting to say that in regards to what you're saying, Dr. Jared, I agree wholeheartedly. Where we have to have these tough conversations, and I think what we are missing in today's day and age is the respect word. Where how are we going to be able to disagree well, or not necessarily well, but respectfully? Where you have a disagreement, I don't agree with what you're saying. But with our differences, there comes mutual understanding. So how from that understanding do we move forward? And how do we, again, we don't have to, solve these, huge issues, but what's our next step after having that disagreement? So I think we need to be more respectful to others' opinions and just their truth, because if we simplify a lot of things by, you telling your truth and me saying that your truth is wrong, that's, those are, that clashes, you know what I mean? And when our histories collide, that's not, a good thing, because I'm saying you're wrong. So if I want to be seen and heard, I also need to give that same, feeling of others being seen and heard as well. So I definitely am very, very excited that we're speaking about, all of these issues that I don't think are spoken about enough.
Wow. And Dr. Christie, may I interject something? I think
Go ahead.
when you're having a conversation with someone and histories are colliding, that actual person's knowledge base of what you're talking about, that's all they know.
Yes.
So if they've gotten a wrong story about your culture, when you speak, the first thing in their mind is that wrong story. So at times when histories collide, and Dr. Makaiwi, we did this last week in Las Vegas. We had some very challenging conversations with people. And Dr. Makaiwi, I saw something. I saw people at the end that had disagreement left as friends, because when histories collide, treating each other with civility and respect, they were able to hear all the way through. So Dr. Christie, what you said is profound. When you hear all the way through, first of all, as we get into a dialogue, whatever you say, I'm going to play in my head what I know. So if you say something, if you speak something, it actually pulls me back to a knowledge base of my knowledge of what you said. But if my knowledge is wrong from the beginning, then I'm hearing you wrong, because my knowledge base where I'm pulling the information from is wrong. So this is why when I listen to you all the way through, now that information can change, because I only know what I know. So if you say this and it triggers this thought in me, that thought could be way wrong. So that's why it's important what we're doing today, Dr. Christie. I thank you again for this great conversation.
And as you are talking, it brought me back to, there's a common thing that happens there. It's about control. And so when I say control, we look at it differently. But control also is when I'm talking to you and you're not giving me your undivided attention. You're constantly thinking about what would you say after I finish talking. In other words, you are not giving me your undivided attention. In other words, you wanting me to see things your way. And what happens to my way? And then you keep rubbing head right there. And it's really about control, because you're controlling what I believe for me to see your way. And without civility, again, there's friction.
Wow. That's really good. That's, there's one thing that I think, and this is just, again, I'm coming from a biblical worldview. I think part of our challenge, Dr. Makaiwi and Dr. Akama, Dr. Christie, part of our challenge is everyone's not gifted the same, but everyone expects equality.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I agree that everyone should be treated civilly as a human being just because you're a human being. But our gifts allow us to produce more in living. If you have a different gifting than what I have, you're going to make way more wealth than a person, and wealth is where the real issue is. Let me tell you this: if you put an African American, a Chinese, an African in the same economic class, grow them up from actual kindergarten through first grade, they have the same belief system. Correct?
Yes.
You put those same people in a poor environment, they'll grow up with the same mindset. So really, it comes down to economics. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes, I think it comes with it. It goes back to economics to a certain degree.
Uh-huh.
I'll say that to a certain degree, because your gift is your gift.
Yes.
And sometimes when you are put in a certain environment, I'll take any developing country, for example, and you can have that somebody that is not from a developing country, but all of them grew over there in less developing countries, right? If it's your gift to be smart, so know how to do things with your hands, if it's your gift to be book literate, there's going to be differences in who they are and what they are able to accomplish, regardless of, even if they're all raised in one place. So I think what you said is true, but in addition to that, I think gift has something to do with that as well.
I fully agree. I 100% agree. I think again, man-made wisdom doesn't trump God. So I think many times we have man-made wisdom that people wonder why it fails. It fails. And this is my belief. And I work interfaith. I work with every gender. I work with everyone. I have no issues with anyone. My thing is, I believe that I'm put here with a gift to do a God assignment, and I believe that if we have systems that don't allow people access to opportunity, eventually that whole system will crumble, because at some point the people will rise up against injustice and mistreatment.
Correct.
What are your thoughts, Dr. Akama?
I agree with you 100% that if you treat people unfairly, if you don't listen to people, we don't share resources and opportunities, it is just a matter of time that people will repair. We have seen it. Let me tell you that that we could have avoided many conflicts in the world and in our homes if we ever cared to say I'm sorry.
Yes.
If you mistreat people, Dr. Clyde Rivers, what do you expect people to say? They say, "Guy, you are stepping on me." Do you want to step on people and you don't? They have got no right of telling you, don't step on me. You deny people access to opportunities. You want to tell me that people don't have a right to say that you are taking our opportunities? Let me just have this to say. Let me just have this to say, and then I crown it. I crown it off. That if we ever learned to have empathy, to be courteous, to apply the golden rule, because what you want for yourself, what you want for your children, is what I want for my children, is what I want for myself. So any moment you strangle and you deny me those opportunities, it leads to conflict, and a terrible conflict. What I'm trying to say, when you enter into a kindergarten class, the first word you are told when you make a mistake, you say, I'm sorry, excuse me, may I help you? Help me with this. Those are the words which we are to live with, and we'll be able to be civil with one another. And to add another point, that as we talk about the civility, what comes on top is to learn to respect people. Even Washington said in rule number 1, even if we are in a room like this, you have to respect our fellow panelists.
Yeah.
Even if we are not going to agree, respect people. And if we exercise this, the world will be a better place for all of us. Let us not try to go and grab people's opportunities, resources, what rightfully belongs to them. In any event, I always liken this Dr. Clyde Rivers. You go to an hospital, you need blood transfusion. Do you ask, this blood belongs to a black man, a white man? What you need is blood to save your life.
Yeah.
So what people want is opportunities to continue with their life. They are not interested. But if one suffocates you and does not give you blood when you need it, you'll die. So you are 100% correct that we need to share all resources. And what God gave us is enough for all of us, but not enough for a few great individuals who want to amass himself. And Jesus himself had to say, what do you gain if you have got all the world, the resources which are there, and you lose your soul? So our soul is more important. Don't infringe and go and step on people's souls. The souls of people are very dear. So as we discuss on civility, let us do it with an open mind. Let us do it with an open mind, that we should not be able to treat people the way we should want to be treated. And the way Sir Dr. Rivers, you put it, that if you mistreat God's people, you have got a debt with God.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Wow. That's profound. Dr. Makaiwi, do you want to add to that?
Yes. So, Dr. Jared, I want to add to a step before when you were saying that people, how they want to say I'm sorry. Even before the I'm sorry, there's acknowledgement. And I think in today's day and age, especially with the years of, racial injustices that all of our people have faced and, us individually, it's not being acknowledged. So I think now with what the people want is we want it to be acknowledged that these things have happened. Again, if you're not going to say sorry, that's on you, but we want acknowledgement that history isn't just in the past. That history has gotten us to where we are today, and we're not going to relive that past. So now we have to, be on that foundation of acknowledgement, and then we'll move forward. If they want to say sorry, for the injustices that's happened hundreds of years, that they can, but people just want acknowledgement now. They want acknowledgement, and they want to move forward from the past.
Boy, that's good. Go ahead, Dr. Christie. That's really good, Dr.
When Dr. Jared and Dr. Stacey was talking, what I was thinking is, so you have individuals that may be at work. They are at work. And there are certain rules that are put in place. Maybe that rule doesn't favor them, but they acquiesce anyhow because they have to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you really look to the bottom of it, that person is probably not giving 100% because there's some resentment right there. And oftentimes, I think whether it's at work or elsewhere, that perhaps if we take a little bit more time to think about finding out what wasn't said, because there's what's said and what's not said, the undertone. And when that undertone is not being appreciated or is not being acknowledged, it can also ruin whatever the organization is trying to
Wow.
provide.
God, that Dr. Christie, I think part of the reason why I wanted Dr. Makaiwi on the show is because of he's another generation. And I think sometimes, Dr. Akama, we look at things through our generational lens. And we need a younger generation to come in and say, hey, that worked in actually your day. And Dr. Christie, now the actual generation is more aggressive about justice. They are not going to sit back and watch injustice anymore. Where I hate to say this, sometimes in like our generation, we didn't fight back the way that this generation is. And I think it's been progress all the way through. And this actual generation now is fighting for, hey, no. We want hey, if you have that, I want the exact same thing. And I think it's a generational spirit that says, hey, we're done with this. Because every generation, Dr. Akama, in every country that's had a civil war, guess what happened? It was the young people that fought the old system. Is that correct?
100%.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Absolutely. And you see it all over the world where the youths are revolting. I can't take it. Yes, my parents did take it, but I don't have to do it. I don't have to take it because I have a choice now. Perhaps in those days, the parents didn't have the choice, but now these youths have the voice and they have the choice.
It's a great thing. It's a great. That's why Dr. Makaiwi is an important part of our team, because we need that new thinking. Because watch this here, we can become obsolete if we don't move with the next generation. Youth are 100% of the future. So this is why I look to work with young people. And guys, I Change Nations. We are looking for young people that want to change the world. If I can just go a second, I want to brag on Dr. Christie. Dr. Christie, I highly recommend you to help people narrate their story, because guess what? When you can't narrate your story, you accept what somebody else says about you, and there's no rebuttal. Everything I've done in my life, I charted, I recorded, I've written books so that my history never dies when I do. Jared Akama, I tell people, publish. Now, let me just explain this. Tell me who a modern day hero is today. Name a person. When I think about Africa, the only heroes I know from Africa is Mandela. He's the only one that I really heard of in the West. I heard of the bad guys, but not the good guys. So you mean to tell me, and Dr. Makaiwi, I really haven't heard of any modern day heroes from Hawaii or any heroes from Hawaii. So and there isn't a knock on the culture. There's a knock on we haven't recorded the stories. We let our good die, and then their stories eventually die. So we have to, Dr. Christie, narrate your story is one of the most important things. And yes, I am making a plug for her company to help you narrate your story, because when you're gone, if the information dies, wow. Professor Akama, what are your thoughts?
That is true, and that's why, I'm a professor of legacy, and thank you for promoting for people to tell their story and not to allow other people to tell their stories. And I want to make this fundamental point. Nobody, and I'm saying nobody, can stop you from getting what you want. You know what you want and how to get it. You have talked about the future is 100% about the young people. So you can't walk the future to their territory if you don't work with them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say that the young people of today, they are demanding peace and justice.
Yes.
Yes.
And you cannot deny them. I know in Sustainable Development Goal number 16, they talk about peace and justice, but they have got no mechanism of implementation.
Oh.
But the young people, what they are saying, they want peace and they want justice. And for us to survive in the world of today, so that we can be able to work during these turbulent times, it is for us to believe in innovation, so that you can bring out your dreams to make them valid. It is for us to believe in diplomacy. What we are having civil discourse of trying people to have a conversation, for people to engage, for people to have an engagement. So time has come for us, Dr. Christine, not to have a mere talk, but to re-engage and re-engineer ourselves so that we can have a new refocus on where we want to go. We want young people to be serious about entrepreneurship. You talk about there's global unemployment of the young people, but the young people are very innovative. They want to have entrepreneurship. That's why we want to give them an holistic education, which addresses the mind, the body, and the soul.
It's really good.
So the point, the question you were asking, Sir Dr. Clyde Rivers, we need to have civil discourse. And what you have started, Christian, you may look at something very small. These kind of conversations are going to go on, and we are not going to stop our people from getting what they want. And I'm sorry to use this example. See what happened to George Floyd, who were bringing the statues of the slave masters in Europe. Were they the black people? It was because of the young people, because the young people want fairness, they want justice, they want peace, they want to they want to network, they want to have partnership. So we cannot talk about the future. We cannot have something to discuss about the young people if they are not on the table. Nothing about them should be discussed if they are not with us. So, Sir Clyde Rivers, mentoring these young people, you have talked about Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was jailed for 10,000 days until he changed from being a human being to see things in a immortal way, that this life we have today, we are talking about, sometime it will come to a stop. And what will only remain is this kind of conversation we are having, or what we are going to write down. So we encourage people to have a conversation, to tell their story, to engage and listen to one another.
Wow.
That was great. That was great. Great conversation. Now I'm going to piggyback to what His Royal Highness said about not shutting things down and we forgetting it. You've been appointed the ambassador of the World Organization of Natural Medicine. And the reason it is what it is today, that people are beginning to realize there were reasons people didn't have the hospitals in the past, yet they survived. The women had children, yet when they got sick, they took care of, they got healed. Why? Because there were herbs by because there were no history about those herbs. There were no people to continue what the
Oh,
past has left. Now we are left with modern medicine. And we know that natural medicine has its place. And I saw it firsthand during COVID that people can be healed. I am not a doctor and I'm not advocating, but that's what I saw back home, that people were healing themselves and went back to the old way, natural medicine of healing themselves. Because why? It worked. But if no one takes the care to really document it, to continue that route, it will eventually vanish. So I
wow.
love the fact that they brought you as an ambassador to help continue that work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christie. It's exciting. Wow. I mean, we have the opportunities that are in front of us. We have a world right now basically in chaos. No one knows what they're doing. Everyone's trying to figure it out, blaming this one, blaming this one. This is why I believe our civility conversations are going to help empower the world. What do you think, Dr. Makaiwi?
So this is a great conversation, especially in regards to civility work in natural medicine. With COVID and the pandemic, everything that happened in New Zealand, they actually shut down the borders there. So they relied heavily on natural medicines during that time throughout the pandemic, and a lot of the COVID was very minimal there because of the natural medicines that the indigenous and native people there implemented. So all of that knowledge, they of course adapted to, which is amazing to have that knowledge. So I definitely think that we need to speak so we can narrate, those types of medicines, those procedures that these people do, because they again did not use a conventional westernized medical system. They went to the indigenous natural medicine. So that's amazing that the people were able to do that.
It's really good. Dr. Christie, if you don't mind me saying one thing, then I'll turn over to you as we close.
So as we go ahead, sir.
Yeah. One of the things I want to say about the World Organization of Natural Medicines, we are in a humanitarian service. Our job is to educate everyone in the villages to be able to take care of themselves. We never fight the medical industry. Hey, if you break your leg, go to the doctor. He's going to reset it. We just want to keep traditional medicine alive, because in the villages of the world, when there's a crisis, the people need to have a skill set, a tool set of how to use what's around them. And this is why I'm so honored to be a part of this organization. Dr. Christie, first, I want to thank you for an amazing show. You can't stop these. You can't stop these. Over to you.
All right. Thank you all. As we come to the close, I want to go around and have the final thoughts before we close. And I will begin with Dr. Stacy. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Great, presentation. I appreciate the time, letting me speak. With me being in the younger generation as a youth civility leader, I know that the younger generation has so much innovation. We have so many ideas. I do think we need to make a connection with the older generation who has all of those experiences that the younger generation lacks. So by collaborating together, we can, create solutions that the younger generation will be living through. And I definitely want to push civility, push, speaking your stories, telling people what you want to say, how you want to say it, and make sure you're being respectful while doing it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Professor Akama.
Yeah, let me just have this. This was a great conversation, and we should now continue taking it into another level. As we proceed, let us learn to understand ourselves and recognize that we have been given a new commandment by God, that the commandment of love. That's the new commandment that Jesus gave in John 14, in John 13, John 13, verse 14. He said that we love one another. If we embrace love, we should not be having this racial dialogue. But be it as it may, and as Sir Dr. Clyde Rivers, congratulations for being appointed an ambassador from World Mission, is because we are going back to the basics. We are going back to the roots. Remember, the whole world is in Cairo, COP27, trying to address climate change, where we have damaged the environment. Let us go back and be stewards of what we were meant to be, because God is yesterday the same, today, and for eternity. If He has given us to take care of the environment, to take care of the kind of herbs, because God, Dr. Clyde Rivers, what we have been given is divine. Is divine. Divine in the sense, God said that all the herbs will be our medicines. So let us continue with this kind of conversation so that we can have a proper civil discourse, engagement. Let us talk to one another until we hear the other side telling their story.
That's absolutely great. Thank you so much for joining us. His Royal Highness, your last thought.
Dr. Christie, I'm so grateful for you for establishing this kind of platform. It takes courage to have these talks, and to have you as an amazing spearhead for narrating your story. You know now you're doing the right thing, because this is helping the world. Dr. Stayson, thank you for your excellent voice. Dr. Akama, you're a true statesman. And final words, Dr. Christie, don't stop.
Thank you so much for everyone thank you so much. You guys make it work. And I appreciate your time for being here, for your contribution in this conversation. Sometimes the race conversation can go out the other way, but we have taken it and do it in such a way that is very fruitful, where everybody that hears this conversation will know that is a conversation to be heard, because it's far too long. And the new generation, they are depending on us, and we all live here together. What's the way forward? And that's what we're talking about. This is not going to be the last. This is the first time.
Yes.
We're going to have more of this type of conversation. We're going to have this conversation with young girls and women.
Yes.
So that will be the next one that I'll be having. So I want to take the time and thank you all. And everybody who's watching us, don't forget to go ahead and share this video, because you never know whose life is going to be impacted and changed. Change is what we're all about. Change for humanity, change for everyone. Until next time, I just want to take time to say hello and thank you again for coming.